What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris, this is 4K Motoring, and today I've got a question for you guys. Might be a little bit controversial. Has motorcycle Aero gone a little bit too far? While I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys watching, motorcycle aerodynamics and different aero works has really advanced over the better part of the last decade. We've gotten things like winglets and side gill spoilers and all sorts of stuff that is made into production bikes from their motorcycle racing counterparts. Now in the MotoGP series and World Superbike, stuff like that, we've seen these winglets pop up years ago. They're controversial at first, now everybody's doing it. Ducati kind of led the charge with that. And I've seen a lot of arguments on the internet lately about how much they've really gone into with these aerodynamics, how they're doing rear spoilers now and totally changing the look of these bikes, and whether that's a good thing for the sport or a bad thing for the sport and for motorcycles in general. Now, over the years, Ducati has really changed the way that they've done their aerodynamics. And if you compare the bike year after year after year since they started these winglets, you can really see an evolution in those aerodynamics. Ducati actually posted, with MotoGP support, a video on how they do their aerodynamics, what things they look for, their computer modeling, and their wind tunnel tests to really get the shape of the bikes out and get the feel that they want out of them. They're really trying to keep this front tire weighted and on the ground. That's a big concern for them, in addition to all their ride height devices, that sort of thing. And after a couple years, we started seeing on street bikes, especially the high-end ones first and now kind of trickling down, they're all coming with some sort of winglets. Now take this for what it's worth, and this is purely my opinion. I am a huge fan of the aerodynamic work that's been done to these bikes. The argument I've seen made online quite often is that the street Rossi typically doesn't hit 220 miles an hour and doesn't need all this aerodynamics to ride a street bike. And if you think about the aerodynamics that are on a race bike, personally I agree. You don't need those on the street. That's absolutely unnecessary for that exact same type of aerodynamic equipment to be on a street bike. What is different though is that technology, that same level of wind tunnel testing, fluid works, and production that has made it to the street bikes from the race bikes has been modified a little bit. In the case of this Multistrada, Ducati knows how fast the riders are going to go on this bike. They have tuned all the aerodynamics for that. These winglets down here, although they are derived from MotoGP tech, they have come about through all the R&D that they've done through MotoGP. These are not really meant for downforce. Now Ducati says they do provide a little bit of front downforce, but predominantly the reason that they're there is to funnel cold air up from in front of the bike, in front of the wheel, up to the rider. And you can see the angle of these things. Very steeply inclined because, again, they're made to shoot air up to the rider. So this technology is something that we are benefiting from, not for the aerodynamic properties of downforce and high performance, but more so for rider comfort. It's pretty incredible what they've been able to do that. Coming into the front and comparing to the older generation Multistrada, for example, the radiator array is vastly different. Now, before we had an oil cooler that was up towards the front, and it was just a big flat radiator coming across the back of the bike here. We now have a ram air system for our intake, for our air intake. Our oil cooler is sitting right here, and if you guys can see, I don't know how the lighting is going to be, there are ducts on the side of the oil cooler before you get to the radiator itself. And that duct is very important because it flows through and around behind the radiator opening to allow cold air to come out. This is really made to make the hot air from the radiator that come out of the side gills, the side-facing radiator, to be blown out this way. Cool air is now creating a buffer so that hot air doesn't come back to the rider, and this funnel of really cool air comes up in front. All in all, keeping this notoriously hot V4 engine completely away from the rider, and that technology comes directly from the racing line. That is pure aerodynamics work that we would not have if we didn't have these aerodynamic advancements in MotoGP, World Superbike, and similar. So I really want to see what you guys are thinking as far as this technology, both on the racing circuit. Have they gone too far? Is this continued advancement? If you've seen the latest Yamaha with their spoiler on the back, kind of reminds me of the initial winglets that Ducati had that were dangerous because they could hook things. Has racing gone too far? Is there too much aerodynamics, too much bike technology, too much R&D in the electronics? Is that too much that it's taking away from rider skill? Or is that really a good thing for the sport, this advancement of getting faster and faster lap time, and the rider that can operate that at these speeds is still a phenomenal athlete? The second question is, for a street bike, are these things necessary? Now, we can go into all the technologies from racing that has made it into street bikes, and I think for each one of those we could have a full video discussion without a problem. But as far as the aerodynamics, do we need this level of advanced aero on our street bikes? Is it making them better, or is it complete and total nonsense? I'll tell you from my opinion, and this is relating right back to the things I told you about this V4 Multistrada, that aero is absolutely phenomenal. They've done a great job, and that has made the aerodynamic qualities of this bike phenomenally better than even the previous generation Multistrada. So yes, my personal opinion, this is fantastic for the sport, for motorcycling in general, and I'm a big fan of it continuing. Like I said, there's been plenty of discussion on the internet about this issue. If you have different thoughts, I'd love to hear them down below. Leave them in the comments, discuss them with everybody. I'd love to see what everybody thinks about this and see what's really the takeaway from this sort of thing, both in racing and in street bikes. Is it necessary for one or not the other? Is it too much in either category? Let me know what you think. For those interested, there is more coming on the Corvette. It's been a little while since I made a video, I know that. I've kind of had the Ducati taking the forefront here lately, as this is the newer bike, and I've been doing a little bit more with it lately. But the Corvette is still in the garage. It's still going to have some videos coming out, so stay tuned for that. As far as the Ducati, we are definitely getting ready for our MotoGP trip. We're about a month away from our road trip from Raleigh, North Carolina down to Austin, Texas for the MotoGP race. I'm very interested to see what this year becomes. I know they've been doing some testing and they're getting ready to get into the season, and I'm really excited to see what overall this season brings with the new sprint race classes and the new Moto E and all that stuff that's attached. I'm very curious to see how the sport itself evolves. As big of a year as Ducati's had last year, I'm very excited to see what the Ducati Island festivities entail at COTA. So if you guys are out there, feel free to let me know, and maybe I'll see you there. As always, if you haven't hit that subscribe button and like this video yet, please do. It helps us out. Thanks for watching 4K Motoring. Hope you like the Ducati content. We'll catch you next time.